kind of like a rating. I guess that's how we're gonna do this. Is I'm gonna go like rating kind of a bunch of different levels and different, I guess you could say, key points for each one, and then we'll get into like some other micro specifics as to like, oh, the time, the risk level, so on and so forth. I'm not gonna make this like a crazy in-depth one, but hopefully, if you are watching this right now and you either do organic and you do paid, or sorry, you do organic or you do paid. That's crazy. That's crazy. Loom is going crazy with the animations. If you do either organic or you do paid currently, maybe this can help you make a decision as to start utilizing the other one, or maybe I don't know, maybe you're thinking something about how to include the other, something along those lines, and just things to look out for, or it just can help you make some decision in some form or fashion. So, getting straight into it, in terms of the time that each one takes, how I'm going to go about this one is I'm going to say that time I'm going to factor in as like how much time does it take on a daily, weekly, and monthly actually daily or weekly is probably better, this one. So because see, for time on organic is weird, where depending on the platform you use, this changes drastically. For example, YouTube, we still get people joining our, I guess you could say, like, our high ticket, mastermind, coaching, whatever you want to call it. We still get people joining every single, multiple times a week. I think right now we have over 100 active members, and if you guys look at our YouTube channel right now, I haven't posted the last time we posted was in October, and it's January 7th. And before that, it was like, I think the last time we posted was February before that. So, months and months and months, and we still have people coming in, buying stuff from our YouTube channel. You guys can see stuff in the description. We still have people joining, coaching, mastermind, everything like that, and we have had no consistent posting in a while, just because we've been so in the trenches on paid and helping people inside the mastermind. So it's kind of it's a weird balance where you don't really have to do all that much if your content is really good on YouTube. This is also, this changes by platform. When I was doing TikTok and ramming TikTok, that was like doing it every day. You make more. That's just a fact. But if we're talking about like the standard YouTube and maybe say like one short form platform like Instagram, the second you start including short form, Instagram or TikTok, it starts to, the frequency and intensity starts to go up, and it also depends how much you put into each, say, like YouTube video if you're YouTube heavy. So now, just for that, we're going to say organic is light. If you're running only organic to get people for your business, then at that point, that's when it's going to be a lot more time consuming, because you have to put more shit out there, right, to keep generating impressions. So we'll say that it's on the more intermediate side in terms of like how much time you have to put in. Now with paid, you don't have to put as much effort into acquisition, because if you are competent and you can write a good ad and you can get, say, a UGC creator, or you do your own ads yourself, if you have a good ad, you don't really have to touch it anymore. And I know some people may be like, well, that's bullshit because you have to put out new ads. If you make really good ads, the creatives can last for a very, very, very long time. Trust me, they can last for a very long time. Years. Some people I know of YouTube ads right now that have been running for like 3 or 4 years. So it's more about the creative longevity that's going to determine how much you have to put out. But even then, let's say you're still pumping out new creatives. Doesn't matter whether it's yourself or UGC, what kind of company you use, it doesn't matter. In terms of like the total amount of time that goes into acquisition, paid is less. Less effort. You're putting more time into the back end of the business and everything that happens after acquisition. So I'm going to say the winner for time is paid. In terms of like how much time, like weekly or on a daily basis, that you have to put in, paid traffic 100% beats organic. All right, skill level to start and get traction. This is an interesting one. because this is more offer dependent, meaning like the kind of offer you are running is going to change how much. Okay, first we should, I guess you could say, explain what traction even means. I'm going to say that traction refers to the feeling you get when the offer starts to actually crank and you're starting to get more customers than you expected for the amount of effort or ad spend you're putting in. That's what I'm going to say traction is. So like, oh, I'm spending 1,000 a day, but I'm making 4 or 5 grand a day, so on and so forth. That's like, that's what I would consider traction for paid. And then for organic, it's like I'm making 1 video a week, and I don't know. We'll say that you are for YouTube, for example, if you're putting out a single YouTube video a week, and corollary to paid. See, this is weird because like the number, if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, traction means completely different things. But you know what? We'll just go more as like a vibe instead of like a specific number. We'll say that there's a vibe that's more in relation to traction, where it's like like it's working. I'm gonna say skill level in relation to this. I'm going to say that organic requires more practice, while paid requires more inherent skill and foresight. So what I mean by that is organic is something like, if anyone that's watching this has ever ran TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, when you first start, no matter what, you're so bad. Like there's some people that are like, they get it right off the bat. I think that even people who are like a little bit more like gifted with organic off the bat, when they first start, it's just not nearly as good as you are down the line, where you're just like a master. After you've posted 2, 3, 4, 500 times, you're just like masterful. You know how to pace things. You know how to keep, like right now, this is all like free flow. I'm not reading off a script or anything. A lot of people can't do that and just keep, there's no spaces in the audio. You know how to just keep things going. That's definitely a skill that has to be developed over time. And in the beginning, you're always cutting videos, blah, 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 to try to shorten audio gaps, stuff like that. But I'm going to say that this is probably the toughest one. Skill level needed to start. I'm going to say that the skill level needed to get traction is actually like the winner is going to be organic, meaning that you need less skill in order to get traction because there's no risk. So you're more experimental, right? So with paid, there's a financial risk associated with your skill level, meaning that if your skill level is not fantastic yet, you're screwed financially, right? Not screwed, but like you're not going to make as much of a return. And because organic there's no financial risk associated with every single piece of content that's going out, you're more experimental. So you're more willing to kind of lean into it and really just go with it, because it's like, okay, if the video sucks, then no one sees it. It just doesn't get pushed on an algorithm. So I'm going to say that the winner here, in terms of skill level needed to start and get traction, is organic. Because there's no financial risk associated with taking an L, so you're more willing to experiment and lean into it, which means that it's just going to be better if you're willing to lean into it and really go for it. Learning curve, I'm going to say the learning curve, this is an interesting one. So the learning curve, now we could say, is this steep? Okay, you know what? I'm going to add another one here. Learning curve steepness, or how steep the learning curve is. Yeah, which steepness. And then learning curve, oh my God, speed. So, sped. So I'm going to say that the steepness of the learning curve is more with paid. Actually, no, I take that back. Organic, because organic, you basically have to be like, organic, there's more social engineering, in my opinion. With paid, it's literally like direct response. It's so much more direct, where you can kind of, if you have a good offer, you could just say what it is. Obviously, there's, copy, and there's all these parts and portions to it where like you need to understand details and that you learn over time. But the interesting thing about the learning curve for paid traffic is that you can see what other people are running in your vertical, and you could just copy and tweak it by say like 5 or 10%, and then you can change it on a dime at any time, and it automatically changes. So I'm gonna say that the steepness of a learning curve, it feels more intense on organic because with, how do I put this? I'm trying to articulate this best I can. The steepness of a learning curve with organic content is that your iteration speed is slower. And so because it's slower, you're overthinking more than you would with paid traffic. So what ends up happening is that because the iteration speed is slower, I guess it feels like it's a steeper learning curve because you are forced to learn it slower, if that makes sense. So, because there's also like, what is it actually? Is the learning curve actually steep versus how does it feel like it's a slower learning curve? And I think how it feels technically matters more than what it, like, if it is or not. Yeah. So I'm just gonna say that the steepness of the learning curve for organic is a steeper learning curve for people that haven't spent as much time on social media. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I am what's the, god damn it, I'm trying to think of the word right now. Not like clinically online. I'm so on, I forgot the word. Why is it fucking escaping? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Like, I can honestly say from the time I was about 8 years old, I've genuinely been on the website of YouTube, or the application of YouTube, nearly every single day of my life since I've been 8 years old, except when I was in training in the military. So outside of that, because we couldn't have phones or internet access or anything, obviously. But I would say that if you spend a ridiculous amount of time online, then organic is not a steep learning curve. Like me, for example, I've been, I just turned 26, so I've spent so much of my entire life online that the learning curve was not that steep. At least in my opinion, it wasn't for me. Now, in terms of speed, kind of going back to that thing of like iteration speed, paid traffic, the speed of the learning curve, meaning like how quickly you understand things. Obviously, this is based on your IQ and if you're a moron or not. However, in general, I'm going to say that the learning curve for speed across the board for people is faster with paid, because your iteration speed, and you get data literally every single day, and it's completely linear. That's also another really good point to make here, is that with organic, there's more variables involved. So your learning curve your learning is limited by the fact that you do not know whether or not it was actually the video itself that was good or bad. You can get a general indication by looking at metrics, but in reality, it's not as cut and dry, because there's also things like brand and like repeat watching, so on and so forth, where some videos are just going to be more top of funnel or more bottom of funnel. So long story short, and the counterpoint on that to paid is that with paid traffic, you have a set input of dollars, and you can look at, okay, if I put this many dollars in, I get this many impressions, this click-through rate, this, cost per click, X, Y, and Z. So, like ad retention levels, like every single point in the system and every single variable is clearly defined. And because of that, you are able to actually learn and implement on a daily basis. And you can literally see, like, you can tell based on the metrics of the ads that day and the type of ad metrics you have, the quality of customers are coming in. Like, you'll notice like average order values go up and down from paid ads, directly based on ad metrics that day. And like, it's such a clearly defined system that your learning curve is extremely fast, because you can always tell what went wrong where or what went right where. And you can iterate, and within an hour of you making some sort of edit, you can tell differences, like full system differences. Now, in terms of speed or scale, actually, like meaning like how quickly can just like everything move, this is kind of an obvious one, is that it's paid. And now this is just as a reminder, this is across the board. Obviously, if you're someone who's like gifted with organic, you have really good offer, you know what you're talking about, you have like a great story, and you're just a demon with speaking and copywriting and how to structure messaging, blah blah blah. That's obviously a different scenario, because with another thing too is that at the rate at which each grow with organic, it's more of a compounding journey where like in the beginning, everything is slow as fuck, everything is working against you. And then as you get more followers and more customers, more subscribers, whatever, you get more. So the more followers you get, the more followers you get, the more subscribers you get, the more subscribers you get, the more views you get, the more views you get. But with paid, it's linear. But that also means that if you have a budget and things are working right off the bat, the offer is working, you could start, and day one, you could be cranking. And then there's a minor compounding effect that comes with paid too. For example, like, when the ads start to get more likes, more comments, more happy customers coming in and commenting, so on and so forth, that adds almost like a semi-organic compounding effect as well. That can increase effectiveness. But in general, just being real here, like the speed of just like, okay, like just firing something off and it can cook, it's paid. Paid is across the board here. We're not taking into account people that are kind of diamonds, like they're just like kind of like maximum level on everything, like they just know how to do everything. We're talking across the board for average person here. Paid is obviously way faster speed. Scale, once again, paid. You don't hear about like $100 million a year, or organic stuff like that, outside of like basically kind of, once again, you have someone that just like they have everything going for them and everything is working for them. Like everything, like all the stars are aligned. In order for organic to reach the kind of scale that is very common with paid, like the stars have to align. Mercury has to be in retrograde, like all these different things, right? But when it comes to paid, you can figure it out, and you don't have to have like an X factor. Like in organic, you need to have factor, and you need to be really competent, good at speaking, all these things. But with paid, you can learn and scale, and it's a lot more, I guess you could say, linear of an experience. But and not to mention, like it's just so common for people to, the second someone figures out paid traffic, millionaire, just like that. It's so common, it's crazy. But organic is like, how many people do you hear where it's just like, yeah, like there's just skeletons everywhere with organic and social media, and people like try and fail and blah, 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 blah. So, scale, that's going to go to paid. You can just also hit higher scale because it's forced. Like you could force it to actually get to those levels. Stress level, this is an interesting one because it depends on it. There's a lot more variables that go into stress level. Ooh, this is a good one. I'm going to say because paid requires more like patience and more cash flow management, and you're running more of like a business than you do with organic, where organic is a lot more of like, wow, free leads and free customers. Free in the sense that you don't have to pay, to keep pushing the content. Obviously, there's costs like gear and so on and so forth, but that's like a one-time thing. Stress level, I'm going to say that organic is less stress, but with a caveat here. When things are working finally and you have everything going, meaning like you have things down, like you have like a proven system that actually, you have customers actually consistently coming in. You have deals coming in. You're, consistently getting views, X, Y, and Z. This TikTok and Instagram, that's probably more stressful than if you were to run YouTube, for example. Like I would say that paid is less stress, obviously, so based on like follower count and what offer you're running and blah, blah, blah. There's so many variables that go into this. I'm just going to talk about from a general perspective because, there's so many like, well, what about if this was happening? Well, actually, if I have an ascension funnel or I run affiliate, this is actually easier or harder. Obviously, like there's so many variables that can go into this, but long story short, I'm going to say that organic, we'll say this as it, like starting at if they are both functioning. Okay? Like if they're both functioning, organic is less stressful because there's more margin and there's no risk, if that makes sense. There's no like, if you screw something up, you didn't lose 5 grand or 10 grand that day. Or like, oh God, like the landing page, like for some reason the cloud hosting was down and or like, my checkout software was burnt, blah, blah, blah. And it was like no risk. Or with paid, like you're more reliant on technology always functioning and there never being any errors. And if there is an error, then it's stressful as fuck. So I'm gonna say that the stress level for organic is a bit lower, provided that if we're talking about the same level of revenue for each of them, like if you're cranking like 250K a month from organic and paid, I'm going to say organic is less stressful because you implicitly have more margin than if you were running paid only, right? And obviously that goes to the next one. Who wins in terms of margin? It's organic. Obviously this is dependent on, team expenses and how much you pay per video. But if we're talking about like business related stuff here and you're not like, Mr. Beasting out with, I'm spending as much as I make from YouTube on the videos. So obviously in this case, organic, we all know what we're talking about here. Like this, organic is the winner in terms of margin. So now the most important one, obviously, is it fun though? This is a very interesting one. I'm going to say that from personal experience, I'm going to say organic is more fun because there's also there's a social aspect that comes from it too. This is obviously not talking about, when I say organic, by the way, here, I'm not talking about like, influencer marketing. I'm talking about like this, right? Like more like personal brand oriented. Organic is just more fun because there's a social aspect that comes with it. You meet people all the time. The feeling of getting like acquiring revenue and acquiring customers at no advertising cost feels amazing because for obvious reasons, like literally straight into my veins, profit margins. So yeah, I'm gonna say that organic is more fun because it also is another factor that goes into it as well is that organic, it also feels like it's not just the revenue number that matters because you're, building subscriber base, so on and so forth, but also there's like a skill development that occurs over time too. And yes, there's a skill development that occurs over time with paid traffic as well, paid traffic funnels, everything like that. But with organic, the skill is it's like actually like implicit. It's almost like it feels more like a sport, I guess you could say, where it's like just getting better at making videos is such a cool feeling to feel in real time and see happen in real time. And like numbers can literally tell you, and like the feedback from people can literally tell you like, yes, you are developing as a person. And that's, I think, another huge part of it that people don't talk about with organic versus paid is that it's not just a revenue thing. It's also the fact that organic makes it feel like you are developing and progressing as a person as well. And also, like I said before, I think a huge thing that's very rewarding is like the 100% profit straight into my veins, like 100%, margin heroin from getting, people from organic where it's just free customers. It's amazing. So I'm going to put that in organic. Now, some other specific ones. Which personality type is each better for? This is kind of going to be an obvious one, but I'll go into detail on it. Organic is better for extroverted personality types, and I'll explain what I mean by extroverted and introverted. When I say extroversion or introversion, keep in mind that first of all, I don't believe that anyone is like inherently one or the other. You can change it on a dime, meaning like you can change how your energy is on the spot. Your energy levels are completely within your own control. Like the whole thing about like it's out of your control is complete crap. That's like self-help, like bullshit. The real way to determine or what really extroversion and introversion is extroversion is when you can feel your energy levels rise when you spend time around people, and introversion is when you feel your energy levels rise by being by yourself. Excuse me. Coming down. some like disgusting respiratory thing that's been going around in SoCal. Anyway, extroversion, yeah. Extroversion is when your energy levels increase from being around other people. And introversion is when your energy levels increase when you are by yourself. It's not based on decreasing, because everyone has like a social battery limit where you're just like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, like I can't like be around, I can't do this anymore. It's not based on what your decreases, it's what increases you. So organic, this is kind of an obvious one, as I've mentioned before, like the thing with is it fun and stress level and so on and so forth, is that organic comes with an implicit, like you meet new people, social circle grows, X, Y, and Z, you're always connecting with others. And I'm going to say that organic wins in that sense, that you get to meet more people, so on and so forth. Paid, obviously you're spending a lot more time kind of like in the quiet, like being a cave dweller, being, kind of more of a, not just a cave dweller, but what's the term? Yeah, you become more of a hermit when you do paid traffic, because it's so much time in here and focused on what's happening on the screen in front of you or employees. And it's a lot, when I say introvert, it's literally almost more like concave, like you're more internally focused. Whereas organic, it's extroverted and you are spending time with other people and also communicating messages to other people for greater means than just pure like acquisition. So I'll just go with that. But it doesn't matter. Like it's not like you can't do paid if you're an extrovert, or you can't do organic if you're an introvert. Like, it's complete crap to believe that like you're limited by how you inherently feel with each of these. Now, use cases in combining them. Organic and brand. When I say brand, by the way, I'm talking about like other things that aren't directly related to like funnels and like the, cold direct response. So this can be anything. This isn't just like content on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube. This is also stuff like, website, SEO, things along those lines. Organic helps longevity. That's kind of an obvious one, because cold traffic, DR, stuff like that is obviously like in the moment while the ads are live, email list, things like that. So organic is good for longevity, good for like organic brand assets, sales assets are good for increasing conversion rate. Let's see here. Cold DR, yeah, speed of testing, definitely. That's a good one. Because you can launch, right off the bat, and you could be off to the races immediately. Literally, like same day, as you can come up with an offer, and if you make an ad or a landing page and a checkout for it, done, right there, good to go, speed of acquisition, speed of testing. You learn really fucking fast, obviously. Learning curve is hyper compressed. 1D. Organic and brand, obviously, margin, that's a fucking obvious one. Margin, I'm also going to say like social circle and connections comes from organic too. Social circle plus connections, because yes, you technically can do that from paid, but not in the same way. It doesn't feel, it literally does not feel as organic, right? Cold DR, obviously scale on command is the word I would use, not just scale, but scale on command, meaning like you can change the dial, and you can, if the business is overheating a little bit and, like customer support and anything is going on, you can just like descale if you need to, which is a very useful tactic. Like if you need to like fix things really quick, but you still want revenue coming in, okay, no worries. We'll just turn the ad spend down a little bit, and then vice versa, where it's like, all right, we're ready to, just like go ham and just cook. You can turn it up on the spot too. And there's also a negative benefit of both, where organic, I would say one other thing that goes for it and against it is where it's like, when you do finally have your pop-off moment, you can't really control, you can't really control it. It's like you have to put in a concerted effort over a long period of time, and then it finally happens when you're not expecting it. Or like a video pops off that you didn't expect. You're just like, I don't know that one seemed like it was boring as fuck, but apparently people liked it. And then the other ones were just like, oh, this is gonna be such a heater in the chat, and nothing happens at all, right? One main thing I was also gonna say is that I don't really have anything more to say about use cases and combining them, but or kind of on the note of combining them and just do both, is that like at the end of the day, I would say that really it's not like they're against one another. I think if you look at it as a binary system, you're kind of a retard. It's not one or the other. It really is both. And I would say that a good way of thinking about it is that like paid is much more of like a consistent machine where there's always going to be a cost due to the acquisition costs. However, it's like a consistent machine, and then what that allows you to do is it allows you to play organic better. For example, like you don't have to bust your ass and make videos on a consistent basis if you have nothing to talk about at that moment. You don't have to. But if you are only acquiring through organic, then what ends up happening is that you become completely dependent on it, and you start to hate it when organic is best done when you actually like it. When you actually like, oh my God, like I like talking to my customers. I like building like the following. I like what I'm talking about. Like this entire, video right here and everything I've gone over. This is something that my business partner, Liam, and I have talked about, probably 15 or 20 times we've had this conversation where we just like go into depth where him and I are just going back and forth about like, yeah, like organic is great for these things, but cold is so good for this and blah, blah, blah. So like this doesn't even work right now. And that's how it should be, is like it shouldn't even fucking feel like labor. It should just be like, organic should be a lot more like, wow, I really love this shit, and plus I get paid from it. And I get to, put myself out there and meet other cool people in my space and that like to talk about what I like to talk about, X, Y, and Z. So paid allows you to do organic right. And paid is also a lot more, I guess you say like professional too than organic. Cause like, I mean, look at this shit. I'm like swearing at you guys and everything. Like, this kind of stuff, like being this real and everything, it doesn't work with paid as much because people, how do I put this? Because you have to optimize every single dollar so much. You have to be a lot more professional, mature, and, not corporate, but you get what I mean. In order to like optimize your dollars properly and do it correctly and intelligently, you have to be a little bit more corp and professional with it. So I would say that a main overarching thing with combining them is that, once again, cold and paid is a lot more of like you're building a system that compounds over time. It's a lot more feeling like you're building a business, while organic feels a lot more like you are. It's not like it's a hustle necessarily. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it's pretty close, where it feels a lot more of just like, it's not like you're building like a defined machine that works a certain way. It's a lot more up to your customers rather than how the business works, if that makes sense. Organic is a lot more based, like, I guess you could say it's more, it's less in your control, but there's more control in different ways. You guys, if you're listening to this and you've done both, or even if you've done organic, you probably know what I'm talking about. With organic, you have more control, but less control in different ways. Where more control, like you control the exactly where the content goes. Meaning, like, you just by like SEO and on YouTube videos and YouTube title and thumbnail, you can control exactly where the video goes and who it shows up to. But with paid, it's a lot more in your control in the fact that you can force what your scale is, and just by tweaking a single word in the copy on an ad, you have control in different ways. So they both have their own versions of control and everything, but I feel like organic it's more up to your customers how things go. For example, like we can go to risks. I put it down here. I'm going to skip this because we've kind of basically hit on strengths and everything already. I'll hit on that in a second. But downfall points, one of the like big ones being that organic, you have to deal with highs and troughs, where it's like you get lots of revenue in sometimes, and then sometimes it goes down. And it's not like it's your fault or anything. It's just, how people are watching the videos and so on and so forth, how things are going with people actually watching your content and not experiencing you per se, but more along the lines of like your lead flow will go up and down, and that's like completely normal from organic. Whereas from paid, it's extremely linear. Like exactly what's going on and everything is all very distilled into metrics. But with organic, it's a lot more highs and troughs. Where some days, it'll be like 15 or 20 grand in a day, and then sometimes it'll be zero. It's completely normal, and you have to almost like back off and be like, okay, it's just part of how organic works, where it's ups and downs. But paid is a lot more straight line. So organics, highs and troughs. Paid, one of the downfall points, your cash flow management needs to be on point, and you have to be not conservative with your spending outside of direct advertising, but you just need to be a lot more. One thing I like to tell people is that with paid, a better way to think about it is with paid advertising, you're actually not so much a marketer. You're actually, what you do on a daily basis is closer to what like an investment banker does, or like you're closer to like a private equity fund where it's like capital in and what's the return. Or like, if I put this much capital in on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, this is how much I get in return on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So paid is a lot more of a cash flow management, looking at it high level, right? And organic is a lot more of things flow in and out, and you're completely cool with that. Another downfall point, I'm going to say for paid, see, both of them are just very good, and they really don't have that many negatives. I don't know why people like shit on them so much. Organic sucks, or paid sucks. No, they're both fantastic. It's just, are you an idiot or not? So I would say I'm going to try to come up with one more for each, though. Organic, I would say like you can get burnt out if you don't see progress quickly. I should probably put this in the notes. That's what that section is for. That would make sense, right? Burnt out if you don't see progress quickly and requires consistent time investment. Need to actually love the game. So yeah, organic, it requires consistent time investment. Need to actually love the game. Highs and troughs. Like, because of the highs and troughs, you have to actually not have a problem with consistently doing it, so on and so forth. I know that over the past, year, I've been kind of an asshole about consistency on this, but that, I'm not going to apologize for that. That's just because I've been so in the trenches on various things. Paid cash flow management. I'm trying to think of another L point for paid. More reliance on God damn it, I need to put this in the notes section. That's what it's for. More reliance on tech and more reliance on infrastructure. So this means more, like, when I say infrastructure and more reliance on tech and that sort of things, like I was saying earlier, it's like if your payment processor, if let's say you get a dispute that comes in, for example, or you get, a wave of disputes, which happens at scale, they'll be like, you'll be fine for 3 weeks, and then one day comes in where, like 7 disputes come in. And then what happens is your payment approval rate goes down. So your conversion rate goes down and your average order value goes down. So you have much more of a reliance on technology and things like the machine always needs to be working. And it works great, but when like one thing goes down in the entire complex system, it's like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, you got to go fix it. And like, there's a day of lost revenue because a landing page, the landing page software you work decided to not work for 4 hours while you were running traffic to it. That happens all the time. Not like, it's not like a very regular occurrence, but I'm saying over the course of a year, that might happen 2, 3, or 4 times. And that's one thing. Then there's like your payment processor or or maybe your video hosting platform for your VSL for an upsell or something that went down. So it's, oh, fucking Jesus, goddamn Christ. Like, so you have more, I guess you could say, instead of just more reliance on tech and more reliance on infrastructure, I would say that one of the L points of paid is that you have more failure points. That's a better way of putting it. You have more points of failure in the whole system because it's a more complicated system. Like organic is so much more simple than paid. It's ridiculous. But that, paid has the advantage of like increased consistency and scale. So it's just one of those things where you have more failure points with paid. Okay, I'm trying to think if I can come up with anything else for failure points. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of really all I have to say about the topic. If I were to give if I had to choose one, like if I could only run one for the rest of my life, and provided things stayed exactly as they are now, where like cost of acquisition doesn't get like crazy much higher, blah, blah, blah. Like things are exactly where they were right now. Obviously, I just because of like the brutal consistency and the fact that like I know that right now I could go launch and start a new offer and get it up to like past 6 figures a month and probably under 30 to 60 days. I'm probably gonna have to go with paid. However, organic it's a very close second because of all the other like more life benefits, like the networking value. You meet new people. Organic incentivizes you to go out and do more things, whereas paid almost allows you and this is more like on a personal level. This is not just like a business thing. Paid, because you can be so much of a hermit and just run it and do well. It allows you to kind of fall into your own bad habits because you almost like you don't belong to anyone. Whereas with organic, you feel like you have to be more like I have to be better for my audience and my customers. Whereas with paid, it's like, give me money, here product, and you're just, they're still happy and everything, but it's not quite the same. Where organic, it's a lot more of like an interpersonal experience. Whereas with organic, it's a lot more of an interpersonal experience where it feels like you belong to the audience more, and you're more part of like a collective thing, and like you're helping people out for free, and some people are paying you for stuff. So I would say that organic and paid, it kind of depends what you want out of like the whole experience in life and everything. But long story short, I'm gonna say that if I had to choose one, it's gonna be paid. Like if I could only run one, it would be paid. But they're both in combination fantastic. I'm literally doing organic right now, and there's ads running right now, right? So, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this. Yeah, they work better together. Obviously, they work better together because organic provides a certain level of like margin padding that comes at no real financial risk at all. You put a single video up on YouTube and you get views on it for years, so on and so forth. So I would say that organic is really good for padding out your paid, and your paid is kind of like your big machine that you're building. And not to mention it's exitable, much more exitable. Yes, you could technically exit an organic business, but like let's be real here, paid it's a lot more turnkey. You can hand it off to someone else. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to go over on this topic. If you gonna start posting again, at least I am. I think Liam might get back into it as well, but I'm gonna start posting again on here just because this is like really fun. I really enjoyed making this video actually, and just kind of letting brain steam out. But yeah, if you guys need any help with anything payment processing related, if you need funds released, I'll put something in our description where if you want help with getting funds released, you can go drop an inquiry there. If you guys need links for private payment processing, once again, I'll also link something below for you guys to go do that. If you run, or if you want to launch your skill in this coaching business or any sort of like high ticket coaching business, I'll leave an opt-in and a book a call below if you want to join our program. And I'll also put Liam and I's book in the description as well for that. But yeah, if you guys need anything, feel free to get in contact with us through one of the descriptions in the link below. And probably going to be posting a lot more consistently on here. Have a great rest of your week, guys.